another Thursday evening for Speak Up, a social commentary talk show where we hope to keep you informed and educated about what's happening locally, regionally, and even internationally in some cases. I am joined each and every Thursday night by Rohan Isles, who is the NRP's candidate for the constituency of Nevis 3 St. George, and I'll go across the table and say good evening to my colleague. Good evening, Rohan.
Good evening, Jaedee. Good evening to our listeners. It's good to be on another edition of Speak Up. I want to say good evening to the constituents of Nevis 3, those in Zion, Rices, Stony Hill, Fothergills, Simmons's, Hanley's Road, Hard Times, Taylor's Pasture, Rollins Market Shop, Zetlands, and all the wonderful small areas in Nevis 3. Pleasant good evening to you. Jaedee, as usual, we continue to reach out to our brothers and sisters who continue to if they have any difficult time or if they are mourning. Of course, we know most recently we would have heard the sad news of the passing of Nevis's second premier. I want to take this opportunity to extend condolences to the family, especially Meredith Amber Fields, who is a very good friend of mine. I want to extend condolences to her and to the entire family as well, and to anyone else who is at the moment troubled, having a difficult time. Our thoughts and our prayers are with you, and we continue to encourage you to hold on to God's unchanging hand. For those who are celebrating, be it a birthday and anniversary, congratulations, and it is good that you are celebrating another special event, and that we hope the love of friends and family will continue to sustain you. Jaedee, today we got good news about those athletes who are heading off to Carifta.
Yes,
I'm not familiar with all the names, so I leave that to you, but I want to say congratulations to them and to their family as well, and wishing them all the best in that event.
Yes, Rohan, thank you so much for that. And you mentioned the passing of Nevis's second premier, His Excellency Vance Amri, and we are going to take a few moments to just reflect on his life, paying our own tribute, albeit small, to Nevis's second premier. So we'll do that shortly. But yes, we want to congratulate our young people who continue to do great things, and I am going to, call the names of those who I am aware of. At least they are students of the Charlestown Secondary School, where Rohan and I are also parents, well, in my case, a guardian, and so we received this information this afternoon. I am not certain if there are others on the island of Nevis, but I'm just going to share with you those that we received, and we say heartiest congratulations to them. And the names we received are Akadianto Willett. Many of us know him as Caddy, I know him well. Janicia Williams, Alexander Caines, many of us know him as Xander, and Kamali Newton, many of us know him as KG. So we want to say heartiest congratulations to these 4 young people, all of whom I know very, very well. Well, Janicia, I'm not quite sure who Janicia is, but I'm pretty sure if I see her, I'm going to say I know her.
That name kind of rings a bell. I think she's a former student at the St. Thomas's Primary School. Okay. Yes, so we want to say congratulations to them. If there are others on the island of Nevis, perhaps attached to the Gingerland Secondary School, please do share those names with us. But we just received this afternoon, and we are so proud of these young people, and we are told that they were selected to represent St. Kitts and Nevis at this year's Carifta game. That's an awesome achievement, and to those who weren't successful, we want you to continue to try. Continue to try, because these athletes have been trying for a very, very long time, and so you never know. You never know. Just put in the work. I mean, I could speak of Xander for a minute. Xander is always running. And sometimes you see Xander, it's not him and anyone else. Xander is so disciplined, and that's amazing. So these athletes put in the work. I know Kari to be very diligent and very focused and very respectful, and so these are some of the attributes that we need to see in our young people to, if you want to get out there and do these things. So congratulations. I'll repeat the names once more. Akadianto Willett, Janicia Williams, Alexander Caines, and Kamali Newton. Heartiest congratulations to them. And
and their coaches and parents, etc. So, Rohan, you mentioned at the start of the program that everyone would know by now, and you took a few minutes. It was quite commendable to offer condolences to those who mourn the passing of His Excellency Vance Amri. Now, Mr. Amri, as Rohan mentioned, was the second Premier of the island of Nevis, and he passed away in the wee hours of Saturday morning last. And I remember the date because the NRP Youth Arm was actually organizing, or had organized, an event for that same day, later in the day, and we woke up to the news. And so the decision was taken that out of respect for Nevis's second Premier, although we have had different political views, at least in the public domain, I'll say that because I don't know who people vote for when they go behind the curtain. For all we know, maybe Mr. Amri used to go behind there and vote for the other side. You never know. But yes, although we had different political views, at least in the public space, we thought it necessary to just show some respect. And it is not specifically about who someone supports. It is the fact that he was our second Premier. And at the time of his passing, he was actually a sitting member of the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. Well, in the sense that he was an ambassador. An ambassador, correct. And so we thought it necessary to do that. And I just want to commend the Youth Arm for that move. There are some who disagreed, and I respect their opinion. But, sometimes you just have to take a step back and give respect where it's true. I say all the time, when Whitney Houston died, when Michael Jackson died, and so many of these celebrities died who we've never met, we take some time and we remember them. So let us remember our own, regardless of political differences. Let's remember our own. Rohan, I'll give you a minute now to just reflect on the life of Mr. Amri in terms of, from your own personal and professional standpoint. You are contesting a seat that he once held. I know that you know him as well, so I'll give you a few minutes to just talk about that, and I'll jump back in after.
I certainly agree with you when you spoke about respect for the nation's second Premier, and I believe that goes for all premiers. It's not an easy task by any means, but I believe the respect that goes with the office,
correct,
must always be honored. One of the things I tend to bother my head with is why we refer to them as former. I believe that the office demands a certain respect that they're premiers.
Okay, and, that's true.
We get to a point where we begin to accord people that level of respect. Vance Amri, in his dispensation with people, you could see it was more than politics.
Yes.
The ease at which he could relate to people, the level of confidence and comfort that he would exude when he, came across you, and it was as if you were old friends, never missing a beat. And it was always some very pleasant moniker by which he referred to you as. I know many teachers can attest to the fact that he would refer to them as Teach. And whenever we had the occasion to talk, he would never call me by my name. It's always, how are you, Teach? And a nice little punch on the arm. And I'm sure many people would remember the interactions with the good gentleman. And, Vance led by an example that people who are serious about service can look to. Whether you were CCM, PAM, Labour, PLP, or an independent or just an ordinary person, the way he dealt with you was along the same lines. He was never one to say, oh, you're this and you're that, and so on. Of course, a lot of people don't know, or maybe forgotten, that he was once a permanent secretary to the Right Excellent Dr. Sir Simeon Daniel.
Correct.
His contribution across the Fijian landscape is wide. Politics, banking, education. As a matter of fact, at under 30, he was principal of Charleston Secondary School. Cricket, and we see the tributes coming in wide across the Caribbean in different areas. And cricket being one of those, was a very skilled cricketer, played for Nevis and played for Leeward Islands. And so, I want to say that it was sad news to hear of his passing. The last time we interacted, it was at the opening of the museum for the Right Excellent Dr. Sir Simeon Daniel, and we had a very small chat about politics and a few jokes here and there that I can't share, but it was always pleasant to have interactions with His Excellency. And I said to a friend of mine, he had received God's promise, and so I know he can rest comfortable, having gotten his 3 scores and 10. It's life.
Yes,
it's life.
Yes, and it's a reminder that we are not to take life for granted.
Amen.
And it doesn't matter how well we've done in our lives in terms of the various titles that we have held. It doesn't matter the riches that we accumulate along life's journey. All of these things are good. But at the end of it all, there will be a time when all of us will have to say farewell, and people would be left to mourn. And you have to ask yourself, what will people say about you when you leave? And people who know me know that I have this kind of your business, you go talk to your belly boss. I don't care, I did my own thing. I walk into the beat of my own drum. But in reality, and honestly, I am still somewhat like that. But as you get older, when you're a parent, you really look at life a little bit differently. And I go to church pretty regularly, and it means something to me. It means something to me. Maybe not as much as it should, but it means something to me. And so I tell myself, boy, I want to do things a little bit differently. I try to stay away from the music, because when I hear music, I can't be hearing one.
Guilty as charged.
You too. But it's a reminder. It really is a reminder for us to just look at how we treat each other.
Yes.
That's something that we really need to. We can have differences. One of my good friends, and I know he wouldn't mind me calling his name because we go way back. One of my good friends made a post on social media this week. Trevi Liburn, well, that's his name on Facebook. Yeah. I've known Trevi for years.
I saw the post.
Yes, and I thought it was a brilliant post. I don't agree with everything he posts, but I really agree with this one. Agree with this one, where basically he was saying that people need to do not let politics divide you. Do not let politics come between your relationships, And other persons say that too, but I remember that one because it was really timely.
Yes,
and so I just want to bring that up. Okay, just as we wrap up this segment, I want to say something too, in addition to what Rohan said, as it relates to the passing of Van Sammy. Van Sammy was an Anglican, and I am an Anglican. And so I felt like I knew him a different way. I got an opportunity to see him a little bit more often. As a matter of fact, that's how my daughter came to know him, in the Anglican church, and they became pretty good friends because he wouldn't see me anywhere or see my mother and not ask about stuff. And I remember we chuckled one time. Has always been very outspoken. She probably was about 3. I'm not sure, but she saw him in church and she said to him, "Honorable Van Sammy, when you see Dr. Timothy Harris, tell him I said hello." And he looked at her, he was stunned because he said, "Look at this little child here, knowing, so familiar with the names." But I was in the media, so she knew the names. So, and engaging him and stuff. So, and he even joked and said, I'm going to have to talk to the Prime Minister because I'm jealous. You were always for me. So, I knew him as an Anglican. I knew him that way. Also, I'm not watering down or diminishing anyone else's experience with Van Sammy. But understand that Rohan and I, for example, and I could include Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons, because all of us are, around the same age group. We grew up with Van Sammy as a premier.
Yep.
Many of us grew up and that is who we knew.
Yep.
Government didn't change when we were in high school. Government changed after. So we grew up knowing him as the premier. And so our experience may not have necessarily been other people's experience. And I wanted to say that because I'm not watering down anything, especially from a political standpoint, that other persons experienced when it came to the toxic nature of the political culture in St. Kitts and Nevis. We're calling it what it is.
Yes.
I don't want to water that down, and I mean no disrespect to anyone, but understand our point as well. We grew up knowing him as the premier, and because we were mere children, you have to understand that the behavior that maybe you experienced, we would not have experienced. You know, it was always pleasant and cordial. So I wanted to share that.
That is so true.
And another thing I want to say, he was a graduate of CVI, well, now UVI, and that is my alma mater as well. And so we communicated along those lines when it came to stuff about UVI. And finally, he was a very, very close friend of my great aunt. For those who do not know, Rodney Elliott is my great aunt, my grandmother's sister, and he was a very, very close friend. I mean, growing up, everybody had to know who Vance Amry was, because she doesn't care if you're NLP or CCM, Vance is she Vance, and you know, Mr. Amry is her Vance, and everybody had to know. As a matter of fact, just today, I saw a clip from the 70th birthday party of Mr. Amry that you know, Auntie Rodney hosted in his honor, and you know, she spoke. I would know she's very plain, very much a plain speaker, and you know, she spoke a little bit about it, but I felt it. I felt the words, and when he died, my mind ran on her. I said, I'm going to give her a couple of hours to, you know, just calm and get herself together. But when I spoke to her, you know, and we talked a bit, and I know she's sad. I know she's sad and she misses him, but she's also very strong. So, Auntie Rodney, my condolences again, and stay strong. And to his entire family and all of us who knew him, loved him, had a different type of experience with him, let us just give the respect that is due. That's all we are saying. And so we just wanted to take a few minutes to reflect on a leader, someone who we grew up looking at as a leader, and offer our condolences and join the many persons who have done so over the last few days.
I mean, Jaedee, before you go on, I mean, just to strengthen that point, is that we grew up primary school, high school, and employment.
Yes.
Many of us, our first jobs were in education, whether it was in the public service. Vance was premier at the time, and so, you know, as I said, that the transitions of our lives would have seen him as the leader, and so just to support what you're saying, that is our experience of the man.
Correct. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us. Those of you who have joined us via social media, we thank you. We are also on 860 AM and 93.7 FM. So if at any time you are not able to join us via the traditional means, which is radio, you can join us on social media, Facebook, as well as YouTube. We are now going to shift the focus a bit as we talk about the facilities here on the island of Nevis. We can't get through all of them this evening, but from our observation, there are some facilities or structures or spaces on the island of Nevis that are just there. Yes, we know we have a small island in terms of the actual land space, but we do have some places that, in my opinion, just there, as we say in the vernacular. They're just there, nothing is happening, and in some cases I think they pose a hazard, or maybe a health hazard and even a safety hazard. I see some of those in constituency number 1. Rohan, are you seeing some of those in constituency number 3?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. And so we want to take a few moments to talk a little bit about those, and just to kind of get your mind going. Remember, the name of the program is Speak Up. So we have to speak up on things good and bad in our community. And I'll start right in the heart of Charleston, Rohan. Opposite the Cotton Ginnery Mall. Below the taxi stand, that building that once housed, was it the customs, the building just there, The building just there, as we say locally. It has just been there. Now, Charlestown is built a certain way. Many of the towns in the Caribbean are built a certain way, where they have this colonial style, and there are certain things you have to maintain. Just to give you a quick history lesson, that's why you would see many of the structures look in a particular way, because that is something that ought to be maintained, and you would see the red roof and all of that. Yes, that's a bit of a history lesson. However, my thing is, we have to find something to do with these spaces that just there. The government continues to pay rent for spaces, but we have spaces that just there. Just recently, and this is one of the reasons why this one came to mind. Just recently, I was in town late at night. Don't ask me for business, Rohan. and I walked by the area. And lo and behold, what am I seeing? Rats coming out of the building, and not the small rats, the New York style rats, in the heart of town. I mean, and this cannot be good. I mean, one might say, when it's in the night, it's not ideal, but still, it's just there. So let us start to wrap our heads, our minds around what can be done with these spaces. I mean, we have some ideas, but I have an issue with these places just there, and nothing is being done. We complain that we have to pay rent, or maybe we want to pay rent, but we have spaces that just there, and maybe they are not fit to house office spaces. But have we done an assessment? But there are other things, surely, that they should be able to house. And I'll go a little bit further up the road. So you're going to leave from the former customs building there by the Cotton Ginnery Mall, and you're going to go through an alley between the post office and the Nevis Tourism Authority, heading towards the Labor Department. And there is another building on your right that just there. As a matter of fact, it has a wooden door, and the door is almost off. It's actually off the hinges, but for some, I'm not sure how. Maybe the other side is still intact, but definitely on the first side it's off the hinges. Again, just there. And again, you see rodents crawling out of the building, and it's right there in the heart of Charlestown. We have food places nearby. We have office spaces nearby. I just want us to start to think about the things, or the possible implications of having these buildings just there. What about Nevis 3?
I mean, as you said, you might be able to get to all of them, but I want to get to one that is really sticking out in Gingerland, that area that the Gingerlanders say is the hub of activity, used to be, wanted to be again.
Yes.
Public market.
Yes.
And the public market, as you say, just there, and it is in a very sad state that requires immediate attention. It's not safe for occupation for any length of time. I took an opportunity to go there, and if you walk a little close to the wall, you'll see how the soil is being eroded from, I guess, the structure below is weak. There's a gut right next to it, and it needs to be some retention. The entire facility really needs to
looking at.
Yeah, you need to get an engineer there, get an assessment, and see what can be done. As you said, we have ideas of what can be done with the space. But it's really one of the areas that really need looking at, because we have a lot of young people in Gingerland who are interested in farming. Farming has become a very bedrock activity for them, and we continue to encourage them, because the economic viability of farming is good. Especially if we have our department and ministry fit for purpose in understanding the roles and responsibilities in ensuring food security on the island of Nevis. And so that area needs looking after, and we are seeing we can do more there than what is there now.
Correct.
This is 2022, and we've got to begin to look at things differently. Our party leader has always quoted our father in saying, man can do what man has done. And we have seen how small spaces can be used to its maximum by creative engineering.
Yes.
And so in that area as well, we want to put a food court, because in Gingerland, again, there are young entrepreneurs who are in the food business, whether it is savory or sweet. And so that area requires attention, and Gingerlanders are saying, listen, let us sort out the area, bring back the activity, the hub of activity, so to speak.
Awesome.
In Gingerland. And then there is the David Freeman Center of Excellence, a noteworthy and a well-deserving recognition of the cultural icon. But it must be fit for purpose.
Correct.
And currently it really just sits there. And one of the things we got when we did walkthroughs earlier last year, in the heart of the pandemic, food business struggled. And in Gingerland, it struggled to the point where people weren't making any money on a daily basis. And so they struggled with understanding how much to prepare and so on. And what they were saying, listen, it's right there in Market Shop. You have 7-8 booths. Why not let us use them?
Yes.
Put us in a place more central where people can access us.
Yes.
And create a little activity, a little hype there, and we can make some money. And that isn't happening. Another thing that is the end we want to also look at is getting young people into the business of using their skills. In Gingerland, there are a lot of young people with musical gifts.
Yes.
And I believe that we can do something there that allows young people to sell their craft in offering shorter lessons to locals and to tourists.
Yes.
Steel pan, fife.
Yes.
Those are the things we want to see happening there. Making, and I keep saying it, and I think you've heard me say it time and time again, our structures must be fit for purpose.
Correct. And you're spot on, Rohan. And there's so many more. And as Rohan mentioned, we have the ideas. We know what we want to do with these spaces, and these are things that you will hear much more about as we get closer or deeper in the campaign. But we want you as members of the general public to understand that you too play a role.
Yep.
You too play a role. You can't just be seeing these spaces and grumbling to yourself. You have to share your ideas, because maybe when we put your ideas with our ideas, we get even better ideas.
That is so true.
So these are things that we need to start to think about and take them seriously. We can no longer operate the way that our grandparents operated. We have children who are coming up in a new and technological age. What are we going to do?
Yes.
What are we going to do? And there are many such structures on the island of Nevis that just they continue to be just there. Just like this government, they just there. And nothing is going to happen because they just there. It will need a Nevis Reformation Party government that understands that performance matters, for us to remove from a state of just there to kinetic. We need some action. We gotta be moving. We gotta be moving. And that is what we will promise you under an NRP-led administration. Rohan, we are almost out of time. And we did say that we wanted, for those who joined late, we took the first probably 15 minutes to pay tribute to the Excellency Vance Amri, a former the second premier of Nevis, and an ambassador for St. Kitts and Nevis. We took some time as we started, and Rohan, so as we wind down, I want us to end how we started. Any final words? It doesn't have to be specific to Vance Amri, but in terms of any teachable moments from him that we can take.
Before I close out with Vance, I just want to encourage Gingerlanders to support the Hanley's Road Easter Fun Day.
Yes,
on the 17th of April. Go out and enjoy yourself. I mean, it's been a long time, and let loose and enjoy yourself. Vance Amri led a life of service to people, and that is clear by his record. As we said, banking, teaching, cricket, all in service to the people of Nevis, and he was well loved, and I am glad that he will be accorded a fitting send-off, and I do hope that Nevisians across the political divide recognize the importance of the man that was our second premier.
Thank you so much, Rohan. Ladies and gentlemen, Rohan said it. I just want to offer again condolences to those who mourn Mr. Amri's loss, Premier Amri's loss, and let us put the politics aside and accord him the respect that is due, as we would have accorded to any of our former leaders who we loved dearly. Thank you so much. This has been Speak Up. Tune in next week when we'll be back with another episode. Good night.
Join Jaedee Caines and Rohan Isles this and every Thursday on the Caribbean's powerhouse, Von Radio, for Speak Up, a social commentary talk show that addresses the state of affairs on Nevis. Expect great conversations, different perspectives, and an all-inclusive approach to moving Nevis forward. Tune in. It's time for us to speak up.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company.